right. Well, you want to go ahead and give the tech update?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm going to share the link here and then get going with sharing of the screen. So welcome to Tech Update 209. The network status on the mainnet and other testnets remains the same. The LLVM work is proceeding forward, and STAS has started to create a test environment for LLVM using a simulator that uses automatic generation of a large number of DAGs. The idea is that we will run the LLVM code on these DAGs and see if there are any edge cases where the results are questionable. So that's what STAS is doing now. And this builds on the work that he recently completed with GraphZ. He did a refactoring for GraphZ. STAS has also completed the API bindings for both HTTP and gRPC for get data at par, which is a new call, and he's completed the work for the command line interface also for using the gRPC one, using the gRPC API, but that is being reviewed right now. That is not merged yet, and I think the gRPC version also is not merged yet, but I think that's ready to be merged. Dennis basically is working on integrating what he has done with the radix tree into the dev branch, as well as keeping a feature branch separate. The reason we're keeping a separate feature branch there is to parallelize the testing on that so that we can just test that without any dependencies on LLVM and other work. So that's what is going on there. So he's resolving conflicts and getting that going. He and Tomislav may be looking into seeing if there are further improvements possible by moving the cache to a higher level. That's still being kind of experimented with and doing some calculations to see if that makes sense to go down that path. But that's not on the critical path for anything at this point in time. The current radix tree and just getting that, it's already integrated with the LLVM code. So this is what the current implementation is what will be going on the testnet soon. So the last week I said there are a bunch of PRs that needed to be reviewed. Tomislav has completed a bunch of them, and others have completed some. And Tomislav has created, has started to work on a test case for Rholang 1.1, the enhanced for comprehension that's available in Rholang 1.1. And he has done some portion of that work. However, in terms of actually completing or continuing that work, that we'll do that after the LLVM tasks are complete. But I do want to, we do have some progress on the Rholang 1.1, and I want to speak to that. First of all, Rholang 1.1 is a Q1 2022, that is this quarter deliverable. So this is the other deliverable than LLVM. And what Tomislav has done is he's published a Docker image of our node version 12.4, which is what is on the mainnet right now, with Rholang 1.1. So I put the instructions here on how you can use that in VS Code. And so anybody that's starting our node now should be able to start this R node and use the Rholang 1.1 with that. There are some additional instructions on the link that I pasted here in Tomislav's Tomislav's repository on GitHub. What this will do is basically when you run this in VS Code, you will be able to see the desugared Rholang 1.1 to 1.0 conversion along with the results that you would get like with any normal or node execution. So the reason we're putting this out now is so that the community can start playing with it, working with it, and report any errors to us. So what this will do is when we get to this task, which will be after LLVM, we at least know, okay, here are the discovered issues and that we need to address to kind of accelerate this particular deliverable. Meanwhile, I know there are some education efforts going on with the RChain Academy and other folks, and that's actually one of the impetus or motivation for us to go down this path, because they were asking, well, should we train people on Rholang 1.0 or 1.1, and how soon will 1.1 be available on the mainnet? So since the 1.1 is quite ready to go on the mainnet, our encouragement to everybody in the community is to start using 1.1, or any new developers that are coming on board to start with Rholang 1.1. So that's kind of where we are with that. And then as soon as we are able to, we will make this into a production production, as in we will make it a complete part of the testnet, whereby you would basically be using 1.1 directly there. So that's where we are with that deliverable Rholang 1.1. The work on eliminating double spend as part of the improved rev transfer implementation, that's continuing. I'm hoping to have something this week that would be at least testable. So that's where we are with that. And the other work that Will and Gurinder have been involved in is getting RevDefine to work with testnet. Now, whatever changes needed to be done to that are done. And with a fresh database, the RevDefine should work with testnet. That's not a problem. But where it is taking time now is because the testnet has been up for a long time. There's a whole bunch of transactions that it's trying to sync up with, because RevDefine operates by collecting every transaction you ever had on the network from the beginning. So that's what it's doing now, and that's what is taking time. So whenever, once that's complete, it should be available on the testnet for people to use. But this did highlight to us that really what we should be doing with the testnet in future is not, continue to run it, because the testnet is not supposed to be some kind of a cheap mainnet or something. There's no guarantee of your data being protected for a long time on the testnet. So we're going to probably bring down the testnet every month or so that any node can quickly sync with the testnet and RevDefine. Of course, RevDefine should not be a problem. It can work fine after this initial loading. But the main thing is that any node should be able to come up quickly without having to take a whole lot of, several months of transactions from the testnet as a baggage initially. So that's what we're going to do. We'll be bringing down or trimming the state every month, leaving perhaps the last week's worth of data at the point we're doing the trimming or restart, so that, if you just started to run your app yesterday and today is the date for updating or refreshing the testnet, you don't lose it all. So we'll put a plan together and then publish that as to how that's going to behave when we're ready to do that. But you should expect in future that testnet transactions certainly would not live for more than a month or so, approximately, on there. So that's one piece. The other thing we need to do with RevDefine is to make it work with the LLVM version as the LLVM version is getting ready. So that's the other task that Will and others will be working on to make sure that RevDefine will be ready when LLVM is ready. So that's what's going on. And some of us have been spending some time with supporting external customers, but that's a good thing because we're developing the product to be deployed and in the marketplace. So engagement on those is certainly very helpful, and then that also gives us basically feeds back to us the kind of features that are necessary in the marketplace for easy deployment and easy maintenance and easy learning, where somebody doesn't have to climb or scale a big learning curve to be able to deploy this and use this in a production environment. So that's something that we're paying some attention to in terms of future features. We should be paying or building based on actual market feedback. So that's part of the reason for us to be engaged with this activity. So those are the main tech updates for today. I do want to remind folks that any wallet makers need to update their codes, to allow the minimum flow price to be a parameter, and any other changes that they wanted to take advantage of with the new API or changes for hard fork 2. Those are all things that they need to be getting ready for. So that's the complete update from me. Are there any questions or comments on any of this?
Thank you, Rao. Appreciate it. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Everyone is holding their breath in anticipation. Theo, I understand you have a demo for us.
Yeah, let's go. Let me share my screen. So I made an app the other day, like a week ago, that is actually a fact checker that's now using RChain, and is based on this open source Chrome plugin called Watson. So you can see it's a bit outdated by now, but it uses like a regular REST API. So what I did, I was swapped it with basically RChain token and RChain multisig. So it's kind of like a hybrid between the two. So it's a multisig that controls RChain tokens. So I'm gonna explain it, show it in a bit. So what I have here is this plugin. I call it FactOr for now. So let's go with that. FactOr. So I have it running, and we can actually report, for example, this satire news article. So let's see, we found something that we find suspicious, like this. And we want to report it to owners of the multisig that might want to fact check this for us. So we right click it and report as suspicious. So now we can actually perform all the RChain token and RChain multisig calls, like for example, node CLI read. And that should show us who the members are. Like currently I have 3 members, kind of fake domains that I come up. They might be real, I don't know. Good Reporters, Independent News, and RChain Co-op, which was the first one. So, and if we type node CLI view, we should see an inbox, like we should see a bunch of purses that have been reported. So there are currently 2 contracts, one for the inbox where anyone can create a purse, and the public one, which is the ones that the plugin constantly fetching from. So as you can see, my report has come in. So it has this purse ID, which is the hash of the URL. I have to actually copy this in order to vote. And the data contains like where is the position of the fact is and the actual string. So, and if I copy the domain name as well, And now I can vote. So I'm going to initiate the voting using this command, node CLI propose operations, and those other operations. Just move the purse from this contract to this contract. And this is the purse ID, and this is the box ID. So if I run this, I'm running against my local testnet, by the way. I will call net.
Understood.
So it says operation recorded did not execute. So it's waiting for another party to vote with the same thing so that it can actually reach consensus. And because currently it requires 2 out of 3. So I'm gonna take a different private key. Just gonna paste it here so I can. Oh, this is different. Sorry, my PC is lagging as I stream. I'm just gonna use this one. And now I'm going to call again this command as a different user.
We should play some music while we're waiting.
Yeah, I'll probably do that next time. That's a good idea. So now it says did execute. So now we should see that the purse has actually been created in a new contract. So now if we refresh this page, we see it. This fact has been flagged because a party that oversees this fact checker has confirmed that this is indeed kind of incorrect. And so, yeah, that's kind of the proof of concept of this. So since it's RChain based on RChain token, I can actually attach files to it as well. So that's kind of on the to-do list. So it can actually contain like supporting documents, like why this has been flagged. So
that is really cool. That is really awesome. Now all we have to do is to integrate this into our chat so that, you know, when people make posts in our chat, they can be, you know, if they have a wide readership, they can be flagged as potentially suspicious or that there's supporting evidence for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. That is really cool.
This can also be used like for as forms of donations as well. Like if so, you can donate tokens to those independent news that are verifying on the other side.
Oh,
so that's
nice.
also a possibility.
That's really cool.
So we can go nuts with this.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Yes, and in DEBRIEF we'll have domain names controlled by multiple people. So it's very similar to what Theo is showing, but instead of fact checking, it will be a domain name that is controlled by like 3 persons or more. But yeah, that's a great demo.
Yeah, it's essentially an RChain token combined with RChain multisig. So multisig controls this master contract. But currently I have only one operation, which is to move the purse.
Yeah.
Move purse.
Yeah.
So it just moves it to a different contract and copies the data.
Cool.
It is really, really cool to see applications like this. This is exactly the kind of thing that we're
So,
go ahead.
so Theo, quick question. Are you in essence here taking the suspicion and minting it as an NFT for approval and attestation?
I don't think I understood the question.
So you
But
said
if-
you're using our chain token and the multi-sig, right?
Yes.
So when you select a fact that needs to be checked, are you essentially taking that and putting it into an NFT?
Yeah, it's essentially creating an NFT with the box name, which is the domain name of the site that you're in. And the NFT name is actually the hash of this URL. And the contents and the data contains the link, like this fact, but it can be found in the DOM. And and I might add some more stuff to it, like, rev address of whoever submitted it and stuff like that. So it's essentially like meeting an NFT. So yeah.
But it's really important to point that out because this gives much greater utility to NFTs than has been contemplated by the market. So this is very nice, and thank you, Bill, for pointing that out. Excellent.
Yeah, so this will forever be an NFT.
Well, and it seems to me that your multi-sig verification is essentially an attestation feature of
Yes.
the NFT, yes?
Yes, it is. So yeah, an interesting fact, you since it's based on RChain token, you could actually sell this NFT if you own it. You can sell this fact.
Yeah, a real stinker. Yeah, if you have someone who tells a big whopper, right? The fish was this big. Then you can turn that into an NFT and people can make money off lying.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe we don't want to incentivize it quite that way.
Have a new website.
A market,
really pulled one over.
Marketplace for fake news. Imagine that.
Fish stories.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you so much, guys. A really excellent demo. So this week's we had our official board meeting of the month. It was largely an informational meeting. Our accountant presented the full 2021 financials to the board and has sent out a link. I think there's still a few odds and ends that have to be cleaned up for 2021, but by and large, the financials are into the board for review. And after post review, those will all go out to GitHub. Any questions about that?
I remember off in the wings somewhere there was a suggestion of storing this kind of information on chain. Is there any motion in that direction?
I'd love to do that. I think we're getting to that point. Yes, I'm not quite sure when we will transition over, but I think it's a good idea. Okay, so Daryl, why don't you give the week in review, and then I will give my little gift. And when you get to the Casper Standup, since I didn't send you the link yet, I'll fill in for that.
Okay, sounds great. All right, so hello everybody. Here's the week in review for Thursday, January 27th to today, Groundhog Day, February 2nd. Last Thursday in the governance committee, we've decided to meet once a month now instead of weekly because there are not a lot of items on the agenda lately. On Friday, Climate and Coordination RCast, we discussed the upcoming oil company board member hearings in Congress, old growth forests being cut down in Israel, the Winter Olympics being imperiled by global heating, and the ways that we consume media. Yesterday, the Communications Working Group, we discussed the progress with getting the live interpreter happening for our multi-language Zoom calls. We discussed our Reddit community, the Wikipedia entries for RChain, Greg Meredith and Steve Ross Talbot, the marketing work that's being done currently, and how to deal with the bots on the Telegram channels. And then this morning in the active member hangout, Jim talked with me about the early days of collective intelligence, the book, The Network Nation, written in the 70s. He also talked to me about George Poor and his work with community intelligence. And then I asked Jim about how to structure the architecture around the onboarding of users as they join communities that I'm building on a mono. And he showed me how things are working in RGov. And that brings us to now.
Excellent. Any questions for Daryl before I do the Casper Standup summary? And then I'll segue from there to a little gift. Okay, then hang on one second. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so on the Casper Standup, we kind of reviewed some of the details of a model checking side of OSLF. And if you go look at the namespace logic paper, all of those equations that give models for the types, this is sort of a categorical account of how you would generate those equations. That's kind of what we talked about in Monday's Casper Standup. Now, what I have mentioned many times in the past is that the model theoretic side of this is only one side, and there is also a proof theoretic side for the generation of the OSLF types. I have a little gift for the community. So again, this is a very initial calculation. And there's some things that I have left out of this calculation for purposes of discussion. But essentially, this is an input spec for the structural piece of Rholang. So I haven't included the behavioral side, but just the structural side and the logical side. So the container side. So here's the Rholang structure. And this is the container that we're going to use for logic, which is basically a cons list for developers. This is the kind of list where you can where your primitive operations are nil, so you have the empty list, and then you can cons things on elements onto other lists. As opposed to a logic that's based on set. So the collection operations will give us the sort of stand-in for the traditional logical operations, and these will give us the structural operations. So from this tiny little spec, which you could provide, maybe not in this syntax, but you could provide it, say, in the K-framework syntax or in the Kiyama syntax, we can calculate this type system. So you will notice that the things that are not bolded are in fact the Rholang syntax. So if you go down the list here, you'll see the Rholang syntax, the core of it anyway. And if you look at the bolded stuff, those are all the types. So I'll just read off one of these. It says that if x, little x, which is a channel, is of type big X, and now there's an extra thing here, and this is a kind, so it's a type of types, and X is of kind N for name, and little y is of type Y, and Y is of kind N for name, and P is of type T, and T is of type bold P for process. Then we can form a for comprehension, which is waiting at Y for X, and then and then running P is going to be typed with this type here. So we now have an input guard type, and that type is of type bold P. So that this gives you the whole type system for Rholang, and then down here, these are the logical operations. So we get that From nothing, we can conclude that the empty list is of type empty, which is of type P. So P's are the only values that we have, right? So it's just like in Rholang, all values are processes. And if a list is of type empty, which is of type P, then that list is also of type list A, which is of kind P. And if a list is of type a non-empty list, so a list which has at least one element in it, then it's of type list. And both of those kinds of list types are kinds of values or processes. And then finally, if little a is of type A and L is of type list A, which is of course a kind of value, then if we cons an A onto L, then that is of type a non-empty list, which has at least an A in it, which is a kind of value. So there you go. That whole thing is calculated algorithmically from the input spec. And we can use this now to run proof checks to check for a variety of properties. Now, there's a lot more to say about this, but I just wanted to give people an update that we are circling in on the proof theoretic calculations. Any questions about that?
Yeah, this is very, very cool and very much needed, of course.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's needed. Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Monday's stand-up, in which I will go into detail as to how this works and how to get more interesting properties, squeeze more interesting properties out of it. Okie dokie. And it's now is your time, time for the community. Any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, belly aching, kvetching, singing praises?
I'm not a very good singer, so I guess I'll just ask a question.
Okay.
I remember some time back, there was discussion of replacing or upgrading protobuf.
Yes, we
And I was
definitely
wondering if there was an update or a status on that.
I know that Tomislav is doing some work in this area, but I'm not at liberty to give you much of a status update.
Okay.
Yeah. I still believe that we need to replace protobuf with Captain Proto. But the issue is it's kind of low on the list of priorities. So if we had more people on staff, I would recommend that they go and take a branch and just do that, and then 4 months later they would converge on the mainnet branch. But right now it's just lower on our list of priorities.
So would that end up being a part of hard fork 3?
Yes, possibly, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Yes, I have some very good news to tell about my health.
Oh,
And
yes.
yeah, and the tumor is not moving at all. So
Well, that's
that's
good to
great
know.
news.
That is
Yeah.
great news. Yes,
It's very stable. So
excellent.
Glad to hear that, AJ. Nice.
yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
good, very good. All right. I want to remind people, I don't know if people are aware of this, but on December 25th, the Crown, my music ensemble, dropped our second album, Queen's Breath. It is star-studded with all kinds of world-class performers, and 50% of all sales goes to supporting RChain development. And we have a absolutely stunningly beautiful LP. I'll go grab a copy. 1 second here.
I just put a link to the album in the chat for anybody who's interested. But the artwork is quite breathtaking, I have to say.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Okay, so let me just quickly turn on the camera briefly.
I put it in the chat, Greg. Bandcamp is where you prefer people to go, right?
That's right. That's right. So here's
Okay, good.
Here's the cover of the album. Here's the inside. You can see these are Chladni patterns. So for those people who don't know, if you sprinkle sand on a vibrating plate, the different modes of vibration cause the sand to form these patterns. Luthiers, for example, violin luthiers use this to help them in getting the right shape for a violin. Here's the back, and along with a lot of other stunning artwork, I do want to say that it comes with a fantastically beautiful booklet of art that you can peruse while you're, let me see if I can find a page that I think is really just stunning. This one here. So the artwork is just fabulous. It's done. This album took a village to create. It took almost 4 years to make. So I think you will enjoy it, and please consider picking up one if you want to support RChain. All right, unless there are any other burning questions or comments, I will ask that you stay safe, stay warm, and we will see you on the other side.